Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Moneyline Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
So he would actually stay with you?
Oh yeah. I still have Adam's clothes at my house.
Do you really?
Yeah. That's what they do. When Richard comes in, takes that hat off, scratches his head, he takes his glasses off, takes his boots off.
Yeah.
He's home.
Yeah.
Okay, he don't want to be bothered by nobody.
Yeah.
I look at Lynda Petty all them years just like my second mom.
Yeah.
And no differently. She was my boss lady, don't get me wrong. But she's always the loving and caring person. I watched it, and it was game on at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. I go to Tombstone at least once a year now since then. I have not missed a year in Tombstone.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
All right. So, we've been working towards this for a while now.
A while.
So you were telling me the other day that you had no plans whatsoever to get into NASCAR. What first started you down that path?
Well, I started out when I was about 10 years old racing go-karts, of course. So my mom and dad got me into that, and we were doing that, and everything was going good. And I grew up, got a job, and
where were you working?
Rose Furniture in High Point,
okay.
Driving a truck. And so I was doing that, very happy doing that, moving right along. And a friend of mine come to me, brought Adam and Austin to one of my races one night. And he was a salesperson, Larry King. And so right after that happened, Adam, really liked it. I think I won that night, and of course Adam was all excited about that.
How old was he?
Adam was probably 8 years old at the time.
Okay.
And so they come and asked me and said, would you be interested in helping Adam get started? I said, sure, absolutely, I'd love to.
Now, did you follow racing?
Oh, yeah. I was a big fan of it, of course. I was a big Bill Elliott fan back in the day,
Yeah.
And had no intentions of getting in it. I mean, I thought my saying's always been, I thought it'd be easier to get to the moon than it would be to get in NASCAR. So I left it alone.
Yeah.
I just kept doing my deal. So as time went on, Adam, we was racing, we was having a good time. I was working during the week. He'd come stay with me on the weekends while Kyle went to wherever he had a race. So, and then it got...
So he would actually stay with you?
Oh, yeah. I still have Adam's clothes at my house.
Do you really?
Yeah. When he was that little, I still got all our gear. I still got his suits, go-kart suits, helmet, clothes, everything is still at my house.
Wow.
That stuff I'll treasure forever, And so we was moving right along and racing, and I had no intentions of getting in NASCAR, never asked Kyle. We was just happy. And one day, the salesperson, which I'll back up a little bit here, he introduced me to Patty one day at the furniture store. And I looked at her and I went, wasn't you Patty Huffman? She said, yeah. I said, you probably don't remember me. You was my first grade school teacher. She said, what? I said, yeah, I'm Archie.
Yeah.
Oh, she couldn't believe it because, of course, first grade to then, we all don't look nowhere near alike. But so, and then it was on at that point. I took care of Adam, took him racing. I didn't, like I said, one day my friend come to me and said, have a seat. He said, Richard's retiring this year. Would you be interested in driving his motorhome? They're building a brand new one. And I said, okay, sure, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. And deep down, I was nervous because this was a whole nother world that I'm not used to. You know, me and my wife, we just built a brand new house. So that was a big deal to us, being young. And now I'm offered another job that I had know nothing about. So I told him, I said, yeah, I'd be interested in talking to whoever about this. So they set up the appointment, you know, to meet with Richard and Lynda at their house. And I've been in the house before because of Adam, you know, picking up Adam, you know, because Adam would be over there. I go pick him up. He'd be with me the rest of the weekend. So that was the end of '92. I started there.
Now, what time period did you actually start? Did you actually work part of the race season?
No. Okay. I had to finish out the year where I was.
Okay, so
Adam kept racing till we finished that out.
So it was after the fan appreciation tour?
Yes.
Okay.
So at the end of the year, in December, is when I actually, quote unquote, started at Petty Enterprises.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about the Adam Petty that you knew as a young kid. From what I understand, he was just a wee little bit of a hellion.
Yes, he was. yes, he was. He was.
Now, did you have permission to administer corporal punishment? Could you whoop his hind end if you wanted to?
Yes, I did have permission to do that. I did have permission to do that. There have been many a times where I've gotten a phone call and said, you need to get over here right now, because Kyle would be somewhere at a race. Adam would be disruptive at school, or some grades weren't where they needed to be. Yeah. And Patty said, you need to get over here. You need to straighten him out. You need to threaten him with the go-kart, whatever you need to do. Many times I had to go there and pull him into Kyle's office and lay the law down. There's been a few times at the racetrack I've had to grab him up by the nape of the neck and tell him, you do not talk to people like that. I mean, you know, I could tell you one story right now. We was getting ready to go to a go-kart race. And I pull up. Next thing you know, here comes Adam flying out the door. Patty close behind him. Papers in her hand, waving papers. I said, what in the world? He said, we got to go now. We got to go. We got to go. Hurry up. I said, whoa. What's wrong? What's going on? He said, we got to go. We got to leave right now. Well, I rolled the window down in my truck. Here come Patty with the papers. Adam, Kyle was on a Simpson deal. Okay. It was Adam's big deal. He wanted to look good. Pretty gloves, pretty suit, pretty shoes, pretty helmet. So he didn't have a problem going up to the Simpson trailer, getting whatever he wants, signing off on it. That's all it was back then.
Whew.
Well, nobody knew about it. He would do this when I wasn't looking. And, of course, his mom and dad was nowhere, you know, they were doing their thing. And next thing you know, Patty get the bill from Simpson. And that's what the papers was.
So how much was the bill?
I had no idea. I don't know if I knew or I don't remember either one. But for her to come out and be that angry, it had to be quite a bit. Because Adam liked the leather shoes.
Yeah.
He had to have everything pretty.
Yeah.
You know. And I still got all that stuff at home. I have it in a shadow box. So I said, Patty, don't worry about it. I will handle this. Rolled up the window and we took off. We was headed to Liberty go-kart track. Over there on 49 or whatever it was. 220, 49. And I said, Adam, you can't be doing this. I said, you're going to get in trouble and we're not going to be able to race. If you don't go, I don't go.
Yeah.
So when you mess up, you mess me up too. So this has got to stop. If there's something you want, all you got to do is ask. I'm sure that's a better way of getting it, you know. So we done our deal. We raced. We had a good time. You know, about that time, Shane Neal got in it. Steve Neal got Shane in it. Jeff O'Dine got Barry in it. And got Matt in it for a little while. And we was all part together and having a good time. All the kids still. I had no, we were happy,
What What was his learning curve like on the kart? Was it something that he took to immediately, or was it something that he had to work up to?
Learning, at first, he wasn't really interested in working on it. Okay, of course, I kept everything at my house, and I prepared everything for the weekend. And then he got to the point where he said, he said, I want to make some changes. It's okay, what do you want to do? He said, I want to change my gear. Okay, so what gear you want? Go in there and get your gear that you want. I explained to him what bigger meant, what smaller meant, so forth. So he'd pick out a gear, and one night I let him make all the adjustments that he wanted. He went out there and raced. He didn't do too hot. I had the back door down on the trailer, and he come in after the race, didn't stop, drove it right up in the trailer. I went, this ain't good. He's not too happy. He slung his helmet down in his seat. I said, what's the matter? I picked the wrong gear. I said, okay, well, we'll learn something from it and we'll be better next week. So I thought that was really good that he made a mistake, but he learned from it. You know what I mean? So at that point on, he was very hands-on with the tires, gears, clutches, oil. Whatever he wanted to do, I let him do it on the go-kart. He wanted to race. There was no doubt in my mind he wanted to race, and I knew where his life was headed, toward racing. So, and then the go-kart stuff slowed down immediately as soon as I took the job with Richard, of course. There was no time left. We went on the weekends I had off, but it was leading up to something different for Adam. Legends, then late models, so forth.
Was it something that he was eager to do, or at least at first, was it just something to try to keep him out of trouble?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, but I think once he got started, there was no stopping him.
Yeah.
But he needed something to do. Adam was the kid that needed something to do to keep him, I guess, out of trouble.
Yeah.
Keep him occupied.
Yeah.
Adam needed to do something. Well, this is something he could do to relate to his life, his whole family's life. Race cars, whatever. His mom wanted him to get into horses. She was big time into horses. She wanted Adam to get into horses. In my opinion, I watched Adam with the horses. That just wasn't Adam's cup of tea. It was not ever going to be Adam's cup of tea, I mean, he did it for his mom, of course. But it just wasn't Adam's cup of tea, And I know Adam wanted to continue on the Petty name.
Yeah.
That was he was proud of that.
This episode is sponsored by MoneyLine, the all-in-one personal finance app designed to help you take control of your money. MoneyLine, an official partner of 23XI Racing, has been part of the racing community for years. And no matter if you're prepping for your next tailgate or just looking to upgrade some things around the house, with the MoneyLine app, you're one step closer to getting your financial future on the right path. With MoneyLine, you can borrow, save, invest, and earn money all in one place. At every turn, MoneyLine is helping you set the foundation for a strong financial future. Make sure to follow MoneyLine on social media and download the MoneyLine app today. Visit moneyline.com/hotpass for more information.
So you talked about going to work for Richard. Did you immediately start out jacking the car, or did that come later?
That come later. Started off with I drove the motorhome for Richard. And Jimmy Martin took me around. He was Richard's PR guy for years and years and years. He took me, rode with me for the first half or so, showed me the ropes about getting into the tracks and stuff like that, and that was a big help. And then I kind of just learned a lot on my own. There wasn't about 5 or 6 of us out there at that time, and we all was pretty tight-knit family out there, and it was for a long time. But the jackman part come, they wanted me to practice. They wanted me to be the backup. It's okay, great. So I'd go out there during practice. When the main guy got done practicing, I'd jump in and do 2 or 3 stops, just so I can learn how to do it, So that's where that started in at, that we really, back then there wasn't no working out, there wasn't no weight room. You just did it,
At what point did you take over as the jackman?
Watkins Glen of 94.
Okay.
That was the last race for Wally Dallenbach for us. They weren't meshing. He was great road course racer, great. Robbie and him weren't gelling at all, unfortunately. And STP come and said, "Look, we got to do something about the pit crew." And they didn't. That wasn't to me. That was to Robbie, whoever. So they put me in. Of course, of all racetracks, my first race was a backwards pit stop. No, but we practiced it. That whole week we practiced it.
Yeah.
And I was telling this story the other day to my wife, and I said, that race, I drove everybody up on the motorhome. I took Richard, Dale, the whole crew, the whole road crew. Not the pit crew, but the whole road crew, the early crew. I said for some reason they couldn't get a plane, whatever happened, I don't remember. But that was fun. They all rode up with me on the bus. They thought that was great. Everybody hanging out, laying around, So we got there, and everybody got off the bus. They helped me wash the bus. And then we went and got their rental cars. They went to the hotel, went their own way. But Watkins Glen of 94, my first race jacking the car.
What all was involved in driving Richard's coach? That's a job that's way more than just driving to and from the track.
Way more. Of course, the maintenance on it, make sure everything's kept up when you get to the track. I always washed the bus. The bus was clean before I left. But of course, you know how everything is. You're dirty when you get there. Get to the track, I get parked, get washed, go get groceries, clean the inside, put the groceries away, do the laundry, stuff like that. It wasn't as intense as it is now. It's a whole nother world right now. But for back then, that was Richard's pretty simple. It didn't require a whole lot, and back then I thought it was, but looking back on it now, it really was pretty simple back then.
What kinds of things in particular did Richard like on the bus?
He liked, he didn't drink coffee. I had Pepsis on the bus when he wanted one. But the main thing I had to have on the bus was his skull and his chewing tobacco. I had to have that on the bus for sure. But later on, when Richard started staying on the bus a lot, overnight, he liked his steaks. I cut his onions up, tomatoes up. I cooked for him. I cooked dinner for him, sat on the table. What time you need me to wake you up, or what time you need to get up, he'd tell me. Out the door I go in the evening. So Richard was pretty easy, easy going.
Yeah.
He didn't require a lot of maintenance.
All right, so tell me something about Richard Petty away from the spotlight that might surprise people.
As far as after hours, or
yeah.
Well,
just away from in the garage, he's got to be Richard Petty the king, and behind closed doors, he's just Richard.
Well, he likes to in the evenings. He liked to watch his westerns,
Okay.
drink some wine, and dip his snuff, chew his tobacco, and that was pretty much it for Richard. He didn't get out much on the, as far as socializing. Like I said, there wasn't that many of us out there back then anyway.
So did he get you hooked on Westerns, or did you get him hooked on Westerns?
I think he got me hooked on them.
Okay.
Actually, the real influence on that was Bobby Hamilton and Debbie Hamilton.
Okay.
They said, "Have you seen this movie Tombstone yet?" And this was around 1995 when Bobby started driving for us. I said, "No, I haven't." So you need to watch it. All right. I was kind of, I had the cowboy boots and all that. I wasn't die hard as I am now about it, but I watched it, and it was game on at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. I go to Tombstone at least once a year now since then. I have not missed a year in Tombstone.
Who was the Lynda Petty that you knew on the coach?
Lynda Petty, she was just like you see her out in public as she was behind the scenes. She was very sweet, very loving, very caring, worried about everybody, wanted to make sure everybody was okay. Every morning it was, when Lynda would come and stay on the bus with Richard, she knew I'd always have coffee made outside for the coach drivers. Well, Richard still be in bed, Lynda would open the door and hand me her coffee cup. And I'd fix her cup, and I'd hand it up to her. She'd be in her nightgown or whatever robe. She said, "Archie, come on up in here for a minute. We'll talk to us." All right. So I'd go, okay, no big deal. I look at Lynda Petty all them years just like my second mom.
Yeah.
And no differently. She was my boss lady, don't get me wrong. But she's always the loving and caring person that she was. And I looked at her like a second mom. So there have been many mornings we sit in there and drink coffee and talk. Just talk about, what's going on, everything okay, anything you need on the bus, or what's going on over here, she just wanted to catch up on what's going on in the motorhome lot. We call it the trailer park.
Y'all gossiped.
We gossip a little bit. And I said, well, dang, this is going on over here. Or I'm hearing this, whatever,
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. So, and that was the Lynda Petty. She really didn't have a bad word to say about nobody. She was just a wonderful person.
So, back to the race team. And you've talked about Wally. Before Wally, there had been Rick Wilson. Was there a specific point during those years between Richard retiring and Bobby coming on board? Was there a specific point at which you thought that things had kind of hit rock bottom and couldn't get much worse?
Yeah. With Rick driving in 93, that we didn't run good. We struggled a lot of the races. We struggled a lot of the races to stay on the lead lap. You know what I mean? It was very challenging. And me not knowing much about racing at that time, as far as NASCAR racing, I really didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know what the problem was. Okay. And in 94, when Wally come along, it seemed like things got a little... And it wasn't Wally's fault, and it wasn't Petty Enterprises' fault. It seemed like things got worse because we started missing races. We missed 6 races before Wally left us. You know what I mean? And that was really... And anybody in racing knows when you miss a race, it's not good at all. You're in a hole. If you miss one race, you're in a hole and you can't get out of it. And STP was not happy. Richard wasn't happy. Nobody was happy. And I think that led a lot of the tensions up to when things went south with Wally. And they had plans to build a new shop close by, right next door.
Really?
They had plans to build a new shop. And they had those plans in start of 94. And then when things started going not the way they need to be going. They got put on the back burner. So then we parted from Wally after Watkins Glen. Had a pretty good run.
What was Richard's demeanor during that time like? Did he have the weight of the world on his shoulders, or was he still smiling and grinning Richard?
He was smiling and grinning Richard, but behind the scenes he was very just upset about this. This was not Petty Enterprises in his mind to be missing races. Richard was. My deal is, and I'm sure a lot of people are, but I can read Richard through them sunglasses and cowboy hat. I can tell when he was in a good mood, and I can tell when he was in a bad mood.
Really?
Yes. And when you're close to somebody like that and you're with them, my deal with driving that motorhome is a personal service. Okay? I'm with that person more than anybody on a weekend. You learn somebody. You got to learn the people. And when Richard went on the bus and got quiet, took his cowboy hat off, took his boots off, he's pretty much done for the day. He's had enough. And that's when you say, okay, you shut the door, you go into the hotel room.
Could you see him transition from being the king in the garage to being Richard? Because I've had a lot of experience getting to know some of the astronauts, and you can tell when they're in astronaut mode, and you can tell when they're in regular person mode. Could you see that change in him when he'd come back to the coach? Because with a lot of people, it's almost like a light switch.
It is to a lot of them. They have to be the race car driver or the king in the garage area.
Yeah.
And then when they get back to the bus, that's their home.
Yeah.
Kind of let your hair down, if you know what I mean. That's what they do. When Richard comes in, takes that hat off, scratches his head, he takes his glasses off, takes his boots off.
Yeah.
He's home.
Yeah.
Okay, he don't want to be bothered by nobody.
Yeah.
And that was my job too, keep everybody away from that door. If you ain't got an appointment with him, you ain't going in that bus. So, yes, I could see when he comes back to the bus, which that's my job, to make him feel at home. I want him, when he comes back to that bus, forget about that race car. Forget about whatever's going on. I'll cook you dinner. You go in there, turn the TV on, whatever. That's it. That was my job. Make sure he felt like he was at home.
I would be willing to bet that presented some interesting challenges.
What do you mean?
As far as keeping people away from the door, I mean, you're almost like a security guard. You're almost like a cop.
Yeah. When I left, after I cooked his meal, and he told me what time he needed to be up, and all that. When I went out that door, I locked that door. Now, if somebody comes to that door and knocked on that door, rung that doorbell, he'll look out that window. If he wants to answer it, he'll answer it. If he don't, that door is locked. There have been a lot of times we've been out to eat at a restaurant, and I'll see people coming,
Yeah.
and I'll hold my hand up. I'll say, if you don't mind, let him get done eating. I said, when he gets done eating, he'll sign whatever you want, but let him finish eating.
Yeah.
And those people are pretty respectful. They'll walk off. No problem. And when Richard got done, he went right over there and signed all them autographs.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard's many a time, this is great here, I liked about Richard. Many a time Richard would get up from a meal, no matter we was at Sambo's, the Ark, wherever, he'd go back to the kitchen and thank all the cooks.
Really?
And of course they loved that. Here come Richard Petty back here. That was, in that people, that something like that will live with people forever. You know what I mean? They'll take that and tell everybody.